I feel like everybody heard Rapper's Delight for the first time and like lost their mind. Nile Rodgers and Chic, and then they were rapping on a record. And I think when you do something that you love and you're welcomed into it, it gives you a confidence that you can translate that in any sort of room. My name is Tracey Waples. I was born in Manhattan, New York, and I was raised in Teaneck, New Jersey. The neighboring town was Englewood, New Jersey. So I grew up with Sugar Hill's kids, Sylvia and Joe's children. And I was in the studio over there in Englewood a lot. The whole vibe of that was like interesting to me. People know Angie Stone as Angie Stone, but at the time she was in Sequence and she worked in the studio. So I really didn't have like a dream for myself at a very young age. I was just like a kid doing kid things. Music, sports, education was really big in my household. I feel like my steps were ordered to get into this business because I was exposed to it. I went to school with Muhammad Ali's daughter. I went to school with Ronald Isley's daughter. You know, we were friends, but it was just a regular life of children, but they had these parents that were doing these things. So even though I didn't aspire to do them as well, I was certainly exposed to them. I met Andre Harrell when I was 15 years old. He was like, you need to be in the record business. I was like, what, are you crazy? I gotta go to school. My parents ain't with that. He became a family friend and kept in touch with him. I had started going to college at Hofstra University. I couldn't afford it anymore and I called Dre. And I was like, I need a job. And he was like, oh my God. He's like, I just gave this A&R gig to this kid. Do you know him coming out of DC? His name is Puff Daddy. I was like, Puff took my job? But Andre was very, very instrumental in making sure that I landed somewhere. My very first job in the music business was with Eddie F. and the Untouchables. Andre had really set a baseline for me to Eddie and kind of prepped him and said, yo, she has an ear. She really knows detail about music, sonics and lyrics and vocals and just how those things are woven together and what makes it good. And I think, you know, that was appealing to Eddie because he was building a foundation off of production. Sometimes people don't realize that the cornerstone of what made urban music business so burgeoning was there were producers at the core of it. I was there to do A&R, and it was literally starting from the bottom because he was running his business out of the basement of his house. I loved Untouchables. It showed me something very early on that women really were making it happen. The office was 5 women. And I think that was very encouraging for me. And it was local. I was still living in Teaneck at the time in my parents' house. The first day I went to work at Untouchables, I feel like my dad dropped me off. So it was a good sort of easy transition. I think that gave my parents some comfort too, that I was doing a job, but it's still in Bergen County. I ended up working with Corey and Pete Rock and CL Smooth, and was really instrumental in terms of strategically determining sort of what sort of configuration should be made to break the group. I learned so much from just being around Puff and Andre. Mary J. Blige was a 12-inch deal. I was like, we should take a similar approach. So we ended up putting out an EP called Mecca and the Soul Brother, and then created a full-length album called All Sold Out. And that was like really my first sort of thing. And I could remember like taking what we did in this small infrastructure in a basement in Colster and then going to like Electra, you know, where we had a deal for them with Sylvia and having those meetings in those conference rooms. I wasn't intimidated because I had did something that I loved. I certainly wanted to continue pursuing A&R, and I did. Once my beat got wet and I started like really sort of feeling like I had a rhythm for this, I was like, I'm trying to get to Def Jam. Originally, to Andre, connected me with was Russell. But Russell was like, yeah, whatever, get out of here. I'm like, I'm at a cookout. I'm not listening to that. And, there was no space for me. But God's timing is interesting. Rap had started to change. What Andre and them were doing at Uptown was taking over the airwaves and everything else that music is fed through, which was a little bit more aspirational, a little bit, a step up from just boom bap hardcore rap, which Def Jam was doing. So then the next time I met Russell, it was like there was a need for a person like me because I came out of that camp. And I felt like he trusted that I would be able to sort of help get Def Jam into that space without selling out from what the core constitution of what Def Jam was. I grew up hearing that Black men are gonna be dead or in jail by the time they're 30. Hip hop and the music business became a way for me as a little rebellious spirit to say, not on my watch. Not if I have anything to say or do about it. I signed Method Man, Onyx, a girl out of Detroit named Boss. The 90s was a really incredible time. I did get to work with LL on an album with him and Marley, which was amazing. I always ran to this idea of signing and breaking new artists and taking them from 0 to 60. 0 to 60 is hard. It's easy to jump on a bandwagon when something's moving already. But for me, I think the challenge was finding those connectivity dots that lined up with allowing people to be their true selves and just amplifying that and messaging that. Being a music executive back then, there was no real sort of silos in terms of this is marketing. If you were the A&R person, you were the project manager, you just championed projects from the ground level. I think that's why I always sort of lean into that version of Def Jam, because I went back to Def Jam, but that version of Def Jam, my 1.0 experience, I say it was the best time because it was so enriching and so fortifying.